Justice for All. Today is Purim, and we'll be talking about one very interesting aspect of Purim, which is the relationship between Purim and the giving of the Torah on Sinai. So on Purim, we celebrate our nation being saved from extermination, yet again, in ancient Persia. And what does this actually have to do with the giving of the Torah? So the book of Esther tells us that the Jews took upon themselves to celebrate these 2 days of Purim every consecutive year till the end of times after the victory. The Talmud actually interprets this verse to mean that the Jews fulfilled that which they had already accepted at Sinai. So what it says is that although our entire nation gathered at Sinai for the giving of the Torah, this covenant was really only sealed nearly 1,000 years later. So how is this possible? Well, the Talmud also tells us that when Israel stood at Sinai, at the mountain, God held the mountain over them like a jar and said, here's the Torah, if you accept it, fine, if not, this shall be your grave. So we often refer to the Torah as a marriage covenant between God and Israel, and so it seems like the Jews were threatened. So we know that any contract entered into under coercion is not binding. The first acceptance of the Torah from the Jewish side was under coercion, and the second acceptance during Purim was out of free will. So besides being threatened to be crushed by this mountain, we also know that the occasion of the giving of the Torah was accompanied by a great revelation. There were great miracles, the 10 plagues, the splitting of the Red Sea. So we kind of felt compelled. We saw all these miracles and we felt compelled to accept the Torah. On Purim, on the other hand, we accepted the Torah under very different circumstances. Namely that God's presence, God's face were hidden, and it was so hidden that in fact in the entire book of Esther, God is not even mentioned once. So the decision to accept the Torah had to come from something very much internal and not external, and this internal thing was the emunah, was the faith. You can basically think of it this way. The Jewish people entered into a marriage covenant with God at Sinai, but only consummated this marriage at Purim. So we kind of see a contrast of faith in the seen and in the unseen within Purim itself, which is quite interesting. The Rebbe talks about two levels of acceptance, or two dimensions to the acceptance. One happened the first time when during Haman, the Jews were threatened and their very existence was at risk. And there is an element of self-sacrifice here. And the second time, when after seeing the miracles of the Purim, the Jews accepted the Torah, and this acceptance was on an even higher plane. So how would this be on a higher plane when their acceptance was actually motivated by the fact that they saw the miracles? These two distinct periods signify our unconditional devotion, our unconditional commitment to Hashem. And there are two circumstances. The first is when we are under persecution, for example, during the time of Haman, or we are in exile, just like we are now. Another example to bring up is when we were in Egypt, we were under oppression. And the other period is when we are enjoying prosperity or abundance, just like the Jews did in ancient Persia, and just like most of us do today. So in times of wealth and success, when things are going well, things are going great, we know that we feel there's less need for Hashem. So because of that, we have to reach within ourselves rather, for a greater effort and self-sacrifice in order to keep our focus on Hashem. So in terms of these miracles, when we compare the miracles between what happened at Purim and what happened at Sinai, we know that, again, the miracles at Sinai were supernatural, and on Purim, they were natural. What this means is that on Purim, God acted within the rules and boundaries of nature. So that is why we call it the natural redemption. Right now, if you look around yourself, there are billions and billions of miracles happening even today. Nature itself, or the sustenance of nature, is a miracle in itself. We've got personal miracles happening in our lives, but Hashem acts within the boundaries of nature. The Rebbe says something very interesting about seeing miracles. He says that sight can affect our faith. Sight, as in seeing miracles, can affect our faith and can affect our thinking process. And so because of that, faith that stems from sight does not necessarily motivate us to a higher commitment. There is a higher way, which what I would call a blind faith, a faith that doesn't stem from sight. A great manifestation of this faith was at Sinai, for example, when the Jews said, Na'aseh v'nishma, so we will do and we will listen, and that's how they responded to Hashem when he presented them with the Torah. So we will do and we will listen. Notice that first we say we will do before we listen. So this is a manifestation of obedience. We obey Hashem first before we can grasp why. And so this is a kind of attitude that it conveys a commitment that transcends the limits of knowledge. So our desire to carry out Hashem's will must come before our efforts to perceive the reasons why. Now, why would God coerce the Jewish people to accept the Torah? Why would he do such a thing? Surely he doesn't want us to do something for him under coercion, under a pressure. Basically, we know that in our worship, in our godly worship, there are two main emotional components. One is fear, and the other one is love. Fear is probably better translated or understood as awe or reverence. It's a reverential fear that we feel towards Hashem. And so obviously these two feelings, love and fear, work in tandem. Love, obviously, as a motivating factor, is always higher than fear. But Hasidus teaches us that reverence is the ongoing foundation of all worship. There is no worship without reverence, and reverence is like the root of a tree that even when we grow and develop in love and knowledge and understanding, and we mature in our relationship with Hashem, this root, namely the reverence, will always remain. So reverence is kind of like the foundation, and love is the building. Now, why would Hashem, coerce us? Because he wanted to show us that we first need to fear him. In Proverbs, it says that the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. So you see, fear comes first. And Moshe gives an instruction to the Jewish people saying that what does God demand of you? To fear him, to walk only in his ways, and to love him. So notice that Moshe tells the Jewish people to first fear or revere God before they love God. It's called Yirat Shamayim, the fear of heaven, and this is the foundation of our worship. Now, whereas fear or reverence is kind of a one-way street, because it's the emotion that man expresses to God. Love, on the other hand, is reciprocal. There's a beautiful verse in Proverbs, which actually the Tanya expands on quite vastly, which says that as face reflects face in the water, so does the heart of man to man. And this is it's one of my favorite verses, and I love the Tanya's explanation on this. The Tanya explains that this means that the heart reflects the heart, so we reflect God's heart. So in other words, when we spend time contemplating on God's love, our hearts will automatically mirror that love back to Hashem. Although this type of love was already present in every single Jew, and is indeed present in every single Jew today, it was present in their hearts at Sinai, but it was in a kind of concealed state. And so it took until Purim for this love feeling to sort of surface and to be revealed, to be actualized, and to be mirrored back to Hashem. So coming back to this marriage covenant with Hashem, just like with any other marriage, love is something that grows incrementally, and that should be the way we relate to Hashem. We should focus on bringing this love out, or focusing on, growing this love towards Hashem. So it's my wish that this Purim, besides having great joy, you will look around you and see all the billions of inconspicuous miracles that Hashem gave us, the personal miracles that He gave you in your life, and you will awaken your soul to mirror the love He has shown you back to Him. Chag Purim Sameach.